Hello everyone, on today's episode of the 1 Year Life Challenge, we want to talk about the 6 grand illusions presented by society in modern times. Hello everyone, as promised in the intro, we're going to talk about the 6 grand illusions or lies that have been presented by modern society that keep you trapped from living your true life. It's really important to identify these illusions in order to break through to your true life. You would have noticed that sometimes I've spoken about in previous videos that modern society is not all what it seems. Unfortunately, sometimes it's designed through debt or enslavement or through political mechanisms to make sure that it keeps control of large groups of society in order to maintain order for a very wealthy few. And that understanding allows us all to connect and to really become one and understand that as a human race we all deserve the right to live our authentic life. Not just the super rich, not just the super famous, but every single individual has the right to express their divine magnitude which they inherited through birth. So as always, I have a quote on this subject, and it's from the incredible Nelson Mandela. Nelson said, "In prison, illusions can offer comfort." So I'll just say that again because it's an incredibly deep quote. In prison, illusions can offer comfort. Now, Nelson Mandela obviously spent a lot of time on Robben Island in prison. However, what Nelson Mandela's talking there is the prison of the mind. You know, when you're trapped in your mind and trapped not living your true authentic self, you create illusions to try and break through of that trap. No illusion will ever be as fantastic as reality. And your true life must be experienced, it can't be thought. So it's really important that we start to break through those illusions and live our true life. So the number one facet or illusion presented by society is that the illusion of law, order and authority. We're told that we live in a very, very violent and dangerous world, and that ultimately we need to be policed and we need very strict laws to be enforced upon us to stop us from creating mayhem, really. What's very, very interesting is statistically, crime rates have dropped rapidly since the 1980s. However, the news media has increased rapidly the rate at which they report violent crimes like murders, rapes, and carjackings. Ultimately, the media has sent a message that you live in an unsafe country and an unsafe world. But ultimately, statistically, you are safer now than you've ever been in the history of the world. In saying that, even though you're safer, we have stricter laws and more Big Brother authoritarian law than ever before. Your internet movements are watched, your civil liberties are less than what they were 20 years ago, and the idea of law and order as a protection mechanism has really become a surveillance mechanism, a way of grabbing data and understanding citizens and how to project and create more GDP from them. That's not your true life. You don't need a boss, a leader, or a politician telling you what to do. You don't need a policeman telling you that you should be a good person and follow the law. The law that was created has nothing to do with a moral framework. It's all about increasing the productivity of a capitalist society. That's why you can get in so much trouble for writing on a dollar bill. If you wrote on, say, a $10 bill, you can go to jail. A lot of our laws are simply created in order to make sure that the mechanisms of capitalism continue. Don't fall for the fact that we need these overbearing police, SWAT force, armies and militaries. We don't need them. They are there to protect the elite few, the politicians and those people making the money off subsidizing and really exploiting the planet. That authority is not necessary. For thousands of years we've lived in democratic societies without police forces. In fact, police forces are only a modern invention. They're really only about 200 years old. So in the 10,000 years of modern society, 200 years we've had a police force. How do we get along without it? That's a grand illusion. Illusion number 2, the illusion of prosperity and happiness. We're told constantly that we can't ever look at systems like communism or socialism or liberalism or anything like that, or communism, anything like that, simply because everyone is so happy and so prosperous. That is not true. More people will start today in the year 2015 on this date than they would have 150 years ago. More people are homeless now than they were 150 years ago. The idea of prosperity, just because you've got an iPhone, does not make it a prosperous world. The imbalance of wealth has created huge pockets of misery around the world, And unfortunately, for the people who have the wealth, they're not happy either. They're stressed out. They've got anxiety. Suicide rates are at the highest level. This junk that you're fed, that we live in this prosperous, amazing, happy society, is not true. It's broken. It needs to be fixed by great individuals like you living their true life. Don't buy the fact that you should be happy and prosperous because Apple just released a new product. It's not true. It's an illusion. Number 3, the illusion of choice and freedom. Choice and freedom. I was talking to an individual once who was from Russia, and he was talking about communism, and I said to him, I go, well, I like to live in a democracy. You know, I don't believe that communism is great because I think it's too totalitarian. He said, what do you mean, democracy? And I said, well, I want to vote for my leader. And he said, I voted for my leaders in Russia. I said, really? He goes, yeah, I voted for the local leader, who was then elected to the Politburo, who then had to be re-elected, and he had to keep his position, he had to be good at his job. I went, oh, I didn't know that. And I went, but I bet you had to vote someone from the Communist Party. And he said, yeah, I did. He goes, but I bet you have to vote for someone who's a capitalist. And I thought, yeah, we don't have a choice. We're given these two figureheads. In Australia, we have Labor and Liberal, sort of like Democrat and Republican in America. I mean, they wear the same suits. They look like expensive suits. They say the same sort of things. They talk about the same sort of jargon. And ultimately, this illusion of choice, our political system, not to mention all our other systems, is simply not a choice. You're voting for the exact same people who for a long time have taken advantage of large chunks of society. They like to differentiate themselves to show that the illusion of choice, but it's not true. Number 4, the illusion of truth. We now know more than ever that a lot of the conspiracy theories that have come through over the last 10 years, whether it was the CIA selling crack to fund South American rebels, or whether it was different conspiracies in regards to governments and complicity. In fact, I heard today about the 1960s, the Americans signing an agreement that they'd blow up a passenger airline over Cuba in order to frame Fidel Castro. Sounds familiar. The idea of truth is ultimately something that is fed to you by the media. It's disseminated by the government. The only real truth is your truth. When someone tries to tell you that the information coming out of this country, out of North Korea right now is correct, it's not correct. The information you were delivered is directly proportional to getting you to buy and keeping you in fear. Anytime you're told that this is the truth, you should simply question it, and as the Buddha would say, you must experience it. That is your only truth through experience. No one is evil, no one is bad because the television told you. I bet you in North Korea, the reports about Australia aren't great in the same way that the Australians report about North Korea isn't great either. So who's right? Ultimately, you need to remember that you need to find your own truth and not allow the society to bring truth to you, because ultimately, anyone who tells you something generally wants something. 5, the illusion of time. This illusion that you're sold that you're going to live to 87 because that's the median age. You should save every single day and pay your taxes and be a good little citizen and don't break the law because you've got so much time and you don't want to waste your time and you don't want to fall into the trap of getting to 85 and not having enough money. Don't bank on living to 85. When people say the Western life expectancy is 85, it's a dodgy number. They remove child mortality rates, they remove early deaths, they remove, that it's not a global rate. Ultimately, the reality is that all you have is today, and you should live for today. This concept that you need to be a good citizen with your superannuation and save all your money and the great scam, which is this, to work 50 years, give your money to a hedge fund manager so he can run it on the stock market. He'll give you that back as a pension or a super, but you've got a bad prostate, bad knees, and your stomach doesn't work properly. And what did you do at that time? The idea that you've got time and the government's going to look after you or society's going to look after you is nice. However, you must take action and decide to make changes immediately. The concept that you've got forever is a faulty concept. And unfortunately, people get too old to do anything about it. And that's why the system works. When you're 85 years old, ultimately, there's very little you can do to fix your situation, and you generally just succumb to the ravages of time. You don't have time, it's a myth, it's an illusion. Do what you can today, where you are with what you've got, and make a change. And the illusion of separateness. This is the biggest illusion. Number 6, we're told daily by the media that not only are we separate from each other, there are groups and factions around the world who are hostile to you that you've never met before, but if they met you, they'd be very angry at you. There's terrorist organizations, there's countries that don't like you, and your country has to do everything it can to keep separate and to keep these immigrants and migrants and bad people out, because ultimately they're after you. Listen, I guarantee you, if you go to Saudi Arabia or to go to Riyadh and walk up to an Islamic person and speak to them, they're a human being just like you. These lies of separateness are being created by governments and large corporations. Ultimately, we are one. The greatest illusion of society is that you as an individual have more worth than anyone else. Ultimately, you are the individual, you are the consciousness, you are the one entity, and we are all in this together. I guarantee you we are all in this together. They are the 6 illusions: the illusion of law and order, prosperity and happiness, choice and freedom, truth, time and separateness. And remember, they can't sell what you don't buy. It's time to stop buying the lies and focus on your true life. And ultimately, hopefully some of these people who are creating these illusions will come with us and live a happy and joyous life rather than a greedy and selfish life. Big day to talk about big illusions. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue our 1-year life transformation journey. Goodbye.